Africa, the heartbeat of the earth. Africa, the second largest continent on Earth, stretching from the Mediterranean to the Cape of Good Hope. How vast! Africa covers over 30 million square kilometers, large enough to fit the United States, China, India, and most of Europe combined. And yet, what do we really know about this land? For most of the world, it's a place of safaris and poverty, but in reality, it is far more than that. It's the cradle of humanity. Deserts so vast they swallow civilizations whole. Mountains crowned with snow at the equator. Rainforests where sunlight barely touches the ground. Rivers that carve through rock for thousands of kilometers, and waterfalls that thunder with a force that shakes the earth itself. Despite harsh conditions in some regions, over 1.3 billion people call this place home. Ancient tribes, nomadic herders, but also megacities, glass towers reaching skyward. Economies growing faster than almost anywhere else on Earth. Lagos, the megacity. And the largest of them is Lagos, a city of over 20 million souls, pulsing with energy that never sleeps. On paper, that density should create chaos. In reality, it creates something else entirely. Life. When the sun rises, Lagos explodes into motion. Markets flood with vendors. Traffic becomes a river of metal and humanity. The air fills with music, shouting, laughter, the smell of street food sizzling over open flames. Above it all, the city sprawls endlessly. Concrete towers, tin-roofed shacks, luxury compounds behind high walls, all of it pressed together, impossible to separate. And yet 15 million people navigate this maze every day. They've learned to thrive in conditions that would break other cities. Lagos isn't just surviving, it's exploding with ambition. The Serengeti, the Great Migration. But Lagos isn't the heartbeat of Africa, not entirely. That pulse comes from elsewhere. From the open plains where the earth still remembers what it was before humans arrived. The Serengeti, stretching across Tanzania and Kenya, is Africa's most famous wilderness. Not the largest, not the most pristine, but the most alive. Here, over 2 million wildebeest, zebras, and gazelles move in an endless circle following the rains. It's called the Great Migration. And the name barely captures what it is. This isn't a journey from point A to point B. It's a loop that never ends, driven by instinct older than memory. The migration has no beginning, no end. Somewhere in the Serengeti, the herds are always moving, calving, crossing rivers, dying, being born. The most dramatic moments happen at the rivers. Serengeti, Mara, the wildebeest gather at the banks, hundreds, thousands of them, packed tight, hesitating. The water is brown, fast, dangerous. And beneath the surface, crocodiles wait. For minutes, nothing happens. Then one animal plunges in, and suddenly, chaos. Thousands follow, bellowing, thrashing through the current. The water churns white, crocodiles strike, massive jaws clamping onto legs, pulling animals under. Some drown in the panic, others are trampled, but most survive. That's the mathematics of the migration. Predators can only kill so many before they're sated. The herd moves on. The dead feed scavengers for weeks. And the cycle continues as it has for millennia. The Serengeti, predators. Where the herds move, predators follow. The Serengeti supports the highest concentration of large carnivores in Africa. Lions, leopards, cheetahs, hyenas, wild dogs. Each has evolved a different strategy. Different hunting times, different prey preferences, different social structures. Lions hunt in prides, females coordinating to bring down buffalo and zebra. Males defend territory, their manes dark and heavy. Leopards are solitary, powerful. They drag prey twice their weight into trees, away from lions and hyenas. Cheetahs are built for speed, capable of 110 kilometers per hour in short bursts. They hunt during the day when lions rest. Hyenas are misunderstood. They're not cowardly scavengers. They're formidable hunters with success rates that exceed lions. Their whooping calls at night are the Serengeti signature sound. And then there are the African wild dogs, painted wolves. They hunt in packs with coordination that borders on supernatural. Their success rate approaches 80%, the highest of any large predator. The Masai people. The people who live alongside these predators are just as remarkable. The Masai have occupied these plains for centuries, moving their cattle across landscapes shared with lions and elephants. They wear red shukas, stretch their earlobes, carry spears. Their warriors, Morans, protect livestock from lions, creating a relationship of respect and conflict. Today, the Masai face pressures, land privatization fragments grazing areas, national parks exclude them from ancestral lands, education pulls youth toward cities, yet many remain, adapting. Conservancies, communal lands managed for both livestock and wildlife, provide income from tourism. Masai work as guides, rangers, cultural ambassadors. The jumping dance, adumu, performed by warriors, is both cultural expression and physical display. Young men leap straight up from standing position, competing to jump highest. The Masai represent a broader African challenge, balancing tradition with modernity, preserving culture while adapting to change, maintaining connection to land while engaging with global economy. For the Masai, cattle are not just livestock, they are wealth, status, identity. A man's worth is measured in cattle, not money. Some choose a middle path, keeping cattle but sending children to school, wearing traditional dress but owning mobile phones, living in bomas but working with conservation groups. This adaptation is not surrender, it's survival. It's ensuring Masai culture endures in a world that no longer accommodates pure nomadism. The elders worry. Will grandchildren know how to read weather signs, track lions, survive on the land using only knowledge passed down through generations? Or will those skills die, replaced by literacy and wages? By different kinds of knowledge for different kinds of survival? There are no easy answers, only choices. Each with costs the Masai did not ask to pay. Victoria Falls. Follow the Great Rift Valley south through Kenya and Tanzania, and the earth begins to shake, not from earthquakes, from water. The Zambezi River, Africa's fourth longest, plunges over a cliff between Zambia and Zimbabwe. Victoria Falls, Mosio Atunya, the smoke that thunders. During peak flow, over 500 million liters per minute cascade into the gorge. The spray rises hundreds of meters, visible from 40 kilometers away. The sound is heard from 25 kilometers. The falls stretch 1,708 meters wide, twice the width of Niagara, over twice the height. Constant mist creates rainforest along the gorge, lush vegetation in what should be dry savanna. Rainbows arc through the spray, sometimes double, sometimes triple. During full moon, lunar rainbows, moonbows, create ghostly arcs in darkness. The falls vary by season. During dry months, water flow decreases, exposing rock faces. This allows access to Devil's Pool on the Zambian side, a natural rock pool at the edge where swimmers float to the lip, current holding them in place while they look down the drop. During flood season, the falls are overwhelming. Spray so thick it obscures everything. The ground vibrates. The roar drowns conversation. David Livingstone, first European to see the falls, wrote that angels in flight must have gazed upon such beauty. He was wrong about one thing. Angels didn't need to fly here to see it. The local people had been witnessing it for thousands of years. The Sahara Desert. North, beyond the savanna, beyond the forests, the land transforms. The Sahara, Earth's largest hot desert, over 9 million square kilometers of sand, rock, and emptiness. It stretches from the Atlantic to the Red Sea, covering parts of 11 countries. Larger than the United States. For most of the world, it's just sand. Endless dunes under a merciless sun, but the Sahara is more than that, much more. 6,000 years ago, this was green. Savanna with lakes, rivers, forests. Elephants and giraffes roamed here, people hunted and herded. Rock art across the desert shows this vanished world. Hunters pursuing animals that no longer exist here. Herders with cattle where now only sand remains. Then the climate shifted. The rain stopped. The green died. The desert took over. The sand seas, ergs, cover only a quarter of the Sahara. The rest is rocky plateau, hamada, stretching for hundreds of kilometers. Temperature extremes are brutal, 50 degrees during the day. Below freezing at night, yet life persists. Desert-adapted animals, fennec foxes, addax, Dorcas gazelles. They extract water from food, burrow in sand, move at night when the heat relents, and humans, Tuareg. Berbers, Bedouins, nomads who developed survival strategies allowing life where others would die in days. The Tuareg, blue men of the Sahara, have crossed these sands for over 2,000 years. They wear indigo veils that stain their skin blue. Control trade routes, guide caravans, navigate by stars and landmarks passed down through generations. For centuries, camel caravans crossed the Sahara, trading gold for salt, moving goods between Mediterranean and sub-Saharan Africa. Some caravans contained thousands of camels, journeying for months between oases. The oases are lifelines, places where water reaches the surface, creating islands of green and oceans of sand. Palm groves, gardens, settlements that have sustained travelers for millennia. But the Sahara is growing. Expanding south into the Sahel, climate change and overgrazing push the desert further each year. The sand remembers what was, and slowly, inevitably, it takes back more. Mount Kilimanjaro returns south. Cross the Sahel, enter East Africa where the earth splits apart. The Great Rift Valley, a geological wound tearing Africa in two. And rising from the Tanzanian plains, something impossible. Mount Kilimanjaro, Africa's highest peak-capped mountain just 3 degrees south of the equator. It shouldn't exist, not here, not with glaciers crowning its summit in tropical latitude, yet there it stands. Massive, solitary, visible from over 100 kilometers away. Kilimanjaro is actually 3 volcanic cones, Kibo, Mwenzi, and Shira, formed by volcanic activity over millions of years. The summit, Uhuru Peak, means freedom in Swahili, named for Tanzanian independence. Climbing Kilimanjaro requires no technical skills, just determination, fitness, and respect for altitude. The challenge isn't the climbing, it's the air. At the summit, oxygen is half what it is at sea level. Acute mountain sickness affects most climbers. Headaches, nausea, exhaustion. The climb passes through 5 ecological zones, like traveling from equator to poles. Cultivation zone at the base, farms and villages, rainforest zone. Lush vegetation, monkeys and trees. Heather and moorland, giant lobelias and groundsels. Plants that seem alien. Alpine desert, volcanic rock, little life. Arctic summit zone, ice and snow, air so thin every breath is labor. Summit night begins around midnight. Climbers ascend in darkness to reach Uhuru Peak at sunrise. The climb is brutal. Steep scree, cold that numbs, altitude that saps strength. Many question why they're doing this. Wonder if they can continue. But reaching the summit as sun rises over African plains is transcendent. The view extends hundreds of kilometers. You're standing on top of Africa. Having climbed from tropical heat to Arctic cold in days. But Kilimanjaro's glaciers are disappearing. 85% of the ice present in 1912 is gone. At current rates, the glaciers may vanish within decades, ending over 11,000 years of ice coverage. This isn't just loss of beauty. It's warning. Climate change is visible here, measurable, undeniable. The mountain that stood crowned in white for millennia may soon be bare. The Nile River, follow the Great Rift north. Cross Uganda, enter Sudan. Arrive at the world's longest river, the Nile. 6,150 kilometers from East African highlands to Mediterranean Sea. For millennia, the Nile has been life itself. Ancient Egyptians called Egypt the gift of the Nile. Without the river, there would be no Egypt, no civilization, no pyramids. The Nile has 2 main tributaries. The White Nile from Lake Victoria. The Blue Nile from Ethiopian highlands. They converge at Khartoum, Sudan, their waters meeting but not immediately mixing. Brown water flowing beside clearer water for kilometers. The Blue Nile contributes most water during flood season, carrying volcanic soil from Ethiopian highlands. These annual floods made Egyptian agriculture possible. Farmers planted in flood-deposited silt, harvested before next flood. Cycles that sustain civilization for thousands of years. The Aswan High Dam, completed in 1970, ended natural flooding, created Lake Nasser, stored water for year-round irrigation. This transformed Egyptian agriculture. Multiple crops annually, protection against drought. But it stopped silt deposition. Egyptian farmers now need artificial fertilizers. The Mediterranean coast erodes where the Nile Delta is no longer replenished. The Nile supports over 300 million people. Yet water scarcity grows. Population increase, climate change reducing rainfall. Upstream development extracting water. Ethiopia's Grand Renaissance Dam creates tensions with Egypt. Egypt fears reduced flow threatening water security. The politics of Nile water are complex. Colonial-era treaties gave Egypt and Sudan majority rights, agreements upstream nations reject as unfair. Cairo, Egypt's capital, spreads along the Nile, over 20 million people. The city is chaos and energy. Traffic, noise, markets, mosques calling prayer 5 times daily. Islamic Cairo, the medieval city, contains over 600 mosques. The Egyptian Museum houses treasures from pharaohs. Khan el-Khalili Bazaar is maze of shops and craftsmen, but the Nile itself flows through modern Cairo, mostly developed with roads and buildings. Feluccas, traditional sailing boats, offer rides when wind fills their sails. The Nile connects Egypt to its past, to the pyramids rising from desert, to temples along its banks, to the civilization that flourished because water flowed through sand. The Pyramids of Giza. On the western bank of the Nile, on the edge of Cairo, 3 structures dominate the horizon: the Pyramids of Giza, the last surviving wonders of the ancient world. Built around 2560 BCE, over 4,400 years ago. The Great Pyramid of Khufu stood as the world's tallest human-made structure for 3,800 years. Nothing surpassed it until the 19th century. How they were built remains debated. theories involve ramps, levers, thousands of workers, but exact methods are unknown. The precision is staggering. The base is leveled to within 2 centimeters. The sides align almost perfectly with cardinal directions. The blocks, some weighing over 80 tons, were cut, transported, and placed with tools that seem impossibly simple. Copper chisels, wooden sledges, rope. Yet the pyramids stand. Weathered but intact. Solid. Permanent in ways modern buildings will never be. The Sphinx lies nearby. Massive limestone statue with lion's body and human head. Its age, purpose, identity, all debated. Conventional archaeology dates it to 2500 BCE. But erosion patterns suggest to some it's far older. The debate continues. Inside the pyramids, narrow passages lead to burial chambers. The king's chamber in the Great Pyramid is granite walls and ceiling. Empty sarcophagus, no treasure, no mummy. Everything was looted millennia ago. What remains is stone and mystery. Egyptian hieroglyphs cover temple walls along the Nile. Formal writing combining ideographic and phonetic elements. The Rosetta Stone, discovered in 1799, provided the key to deciphering them. Parallel texts in hieroglyphs, Demotic script in Greek. This unlocked vast Egyptian texts, revealed civilization's complexity. Showed their mathematics, medicine, engineering, astronomy. They developed the 365-day calendar. Advanced medical treatments, architectural techniques that enabled monuments surviving millennia. But Egypt also depended on slavery and forced labor. The society was stratified, pharaohs and priests atop, peasants at bottom. This inequality funded achievements, but at human cost, often overlooked in romanticized narratives. The pyramids are monuments to ambition, to what humans can achieve, and to the price others paid for that achievement. The Congo rainforest. Cross the continent west, leave the desert, leave the savanna, enter the forest. Not just any forest, the Congo Basin, Africa's green heart. The world's second largest rainforest after the Amazon, over 3 million square kilometers. So dense that sunlight barely reaches the ground. So vast that rivers disappear into green for hundreds of kilometers. The Congo River is second only to the Amazon in discharge. It drains an area the size of India. The river is over 4,700 kilometers long. In places, it's so wide you can't see the opposite bank. The forest is life in overwhelming concentration, more species than can be counted. Forest elephants, smaller than their savanna cousins, okapi, looking like zebra-giraffe hybrids. Bonobos, our closest genetic relatives after chimpanzees, and gorillas, mountain gorillas in Virunga. Lowland gorillas deeper in the forest, these great apes were critically endangered. Fewer than 300 mountain gorillas survived in the early 1980s. Today, through intensive conservation, population has increased to over 1,000. Gorilla trekking in Rwanda's Volcanoes National Park or Uganda's Bwindi Forest is a profound experience. Small groups hike through mountain forests searching for habituated gorilla families. The trek can be challenging. Steep slopes, muddy trails, thick vegetation, high altitude, but encountering gorillas makes every difficulty worthwhile. A silverback, massive male weighing 220 kilograms, sits meters away. Utterly calm, females tend infants. Juveniles play and tumble. The family goes about their day with visitors as tolerated observers. The hour allowed with gorillas passes impossibly fast. Looking into a gorilla's eyes, you see intelligence, emotion, presence, a being with personality and family bonds. These encounters generate revenue funding conservation. Permits cost hundreds of dollars, money that supports rangers, anti-poaching patrols, local communities. This economic model transformed gorillas from hunted nuisances to valuable assets worth protecting. Dian Fossey, who studied mountain gorillas from 1967 until her murder in 1985, made them famous. Her work revealed gorilla behavior, social structures, threats. Her grave beside her favorite gorillas in Volcanoes National Park is pilgrimage site. Threats persist: habitat loss, political instability, disease, poaching. But the gorillas survive. Testament to conservation efforts and people who risk their lives protecting them. The Congo rainforest is more than gorillas. Its ecosystem of staggering complexity. It's the Umbuti people, forest hunters who've lived here for thousands of years. It's the Congo River rapids where water thunders through narrow gorges. It's trees that were seedlings when Rome fell. It's the sound of rain on leaves, the calls of birds, the rustle of unseen animals. It's life. Dense, wild, ancient. Marrakesh. Leave the forest, return north. Cross the Atlas Mountains into Morocco. Enter Marrakesh, city of mosques and markets, of snake charmers and storytellers. The Medina Old City is labyrinth of narrow streets. Souks selling everything imaginable, spices, carpets, leather, metalwork. Gemma El Fna, the main square, is theater without stage. By day, it's snake charmers and monkeys, henna artists and orange juice vendors. By night, it transforms. Food stalls appear, musicians perform. Storytellers gather crowds. The square pulses with energy until long after midnight. The call to prayer echoes across the city 5 times daily. From dozens of mosques simultaneously, creating layered sound that rises and falls. Bahia Palace, Kutubia Mosque, Sadian tombs, El Badi Palace ruins. Each tells part of Marrakech's 1,000-year history. Majorelle Garden, created by French painter Jacques Majorelle, is oasis of calm. Cobalt blue buildings, bamboo groves, cacti from around the world, later owned by Yves Saint Laurent. Now museum and garden visited by thousands daily. But Marrakech's soul is in the Medina. In the haggling over carpet prices, in the smell of tanning leather from the tanneries, in the mint tea served in tiny glasses. This is Africa's connection to the Mediterranean world, to Islamic civilization, to trade routes that brought wealth and culture from Timbuktu to Tangier. Cape Town. Follow the continent to its southern tip, where 2 oceans collide. Cape Town, dominated by Table Mountain's flat summit. The mountain, frequently shrouded in clouds called the tablecloth, offers stunning views when clear. The city sprawls below. One of Africa's most beautiful and most complicated. Cape Town was center of apartheid, systematic racial segregation enforcing white minority rule from 1948 to 1994. District 6, once vibrant mixed-race neighborhood, was declared white area in 1966. 60,000 people were forcibly removed, their homes demolished. Today, the empty land is memorial to apartheid's cruelty. Robben Island, visible from the waterfront, imprisoned political activists, including Nelson Mandela. He spent 18 of his 27 prison years there. The island is now a museum. Former political prisoners serve as guides, sharing their experiences. Seeing Mandela's tiny cell, where he slept on thin mat for years, is sobering reminder of apartheid's brutality and Mandela's sacrifice. Apartheid ended in 1994. Mandela's election as president represented hope for peaceful transition. Yet inequality persists. The townships, informal settlements housing majority of Cape Town's black population, remain overcrowded and under-resourced. Khayelitsha, one of Africa's largest townships, houses over 1 million people in shacks often lacking running water or electricity. Driving from Cape Town's affluent suburbs to townships reveals stark inequality. Poverty exists kilometers from wealth, separated by history. Despite challenges, Cape Town thrives culturally. It's South Africa's creative capital. Vibrant arts, music, food scenes. The waterfront development showcases cosmopolitanism. Markets, galleries, restaurants reflecting diversity. The Cape of Good Hope lies south of the city. Rocky promontory where Atlantic and Indian Oceans meet. It's not Africa's southernmost point. That's Cape Agulhas. But it's more dramatic. Cliffs plunging into turbulent seas, two ocean currents colliding. The Cape is part of Table Mountain National Park, protecting extraordinary biodiversity. The Fynbos biome, unique shrubland, contains over 9,000 plant species, many endemic. Floral diversity exceeds tropical rainforests. Baboons inhabit the Cape. Bold, opportunistic, raiding cars for food. The waters are treacherous, strong currents, frequent storms, rocky coastline. Thousands of ships have wrecked here. Great white sharks patrol waters drawn by seal colonies. Whales migrate along the coast. African penguins waddle on beaches. This is where Africa ends or begins, depending on direction you're traveling. The southern tip of a continent that birthed humanity. That holds more diversity, more history, more life than any simple narrative can capture. Okavango Delta. Far to the south, in the heart of Botswana, a river does something impossible. It flows into the desert and disappears. The Okavango River, born in Angola's highlands, travels over 1,000 kilometers southeast, toward the sea, toward the Atlantic. But it never arrives. Instead, it spreads across the Kalahari Desert, creating the world's largest inland delta. 15,000 square kilometers of channels, lagoons, and islands. A river that goes nowhere and becomes everywhere. During flood season, water from Angola's rains reaches the delta months later, transforming desert into paradise. Dry channels fill. Islands emerge from rising water. Animals converge from across the Kalahari. Elephants wade through chest-deep water. Hippos grunt in newly formed pools. Buffalo herds splash across flooded plains. Lions adapt, becoming swimmers. Hunting from island to island, learning to kill in water. Leopards retreat to trees as their territories flood. African wild dogs navigate channels. Hyenas fish from the shallows. From above, the delta looks like a hand. Fingers spreading across sand, water searching for paths through reeds and papyrus. Mokoro, traditional dugout canoes, are the only way to navigate. Polars stand at the stern, pushing through shallow channels too narrow for motorboats. The silence is profound, no engine noise, just water lapping against wood. Birds calling, reeds rustling, Mokoro journeys reveal the delta's intimacy. A hippo surfaces meters away. A crocodile slides off a bank. A fish eagle dives, talons striking water. The people here, Baye and Hambukushu, have lived with this flooding for generations. They know which islands stay dry, which channels flow year-round, where fish gather. Their knowledge is not written, it's lived. Passed from parent to child, adjusted each year's water levels shift. Water creates life, always, everywhere. And in the Okavango, water refuses to accept that deserts are supposed to be dead. Africa's paradox. Continent of immense wealth and grinding poverty. Ancient wisdom and modern innovation. Breathtaking beauty and harsh challenges. It defies simple narratives. Resists easy categorizations. Demands understanding on its own terms. This is where humanity began. Where our ancestors first walked upright, developed language, created tools. That origin story matters. Africa isn't just another continent, it's the birthplace. The homeland we all share. The landscapes witnessed are not mere scenery. The Serengeti's migration is evolution in action. Victoria Falls is geology made visible. Kilimanjaro's glaciers are climate history written in ice. The Sahara is transformation-made landscape. The Nile is civilization's lifeline. The Congo is biodiversity at its peak. The cultures, from Masai warriors to Tuareg nomads to urban Africans, demonstrate human adaptability and resilience. They preserve traditions while embracing change. Maintain identities while engaging with global culture. Africa faces enormous challenges: poverty, conflict, disease, climate change, governance failures. These problems are real, serious, but they're not the complete story. Africa is also innovation, growth, creativity, hope. The fastest growing population, youngest median age, increasing urbanization, economic development lifting millions from poverty. The heartbeat continues in drums echoing through villages, in wildlife thundering across plains, in rivers flowing from highlands to oceans. In a billion voices speaking thousands of languages. Africa's story is not finished. It's being written daily by Africans determining their futures. This journey through Africa reveals a continent of staggering complexity and beauty. It challenges stereotypes, defies expectations, demands recognition as more than problems needing solving. Africa is home to over 1 billion people. Cradle of humanity, repository of biological and cultural diversity, landscape of unmatched grandeur. The heartbeat of the earth continues in Africa. Listen carefully and you'll hear it. In the roar of falls, the call of wild animals, the laughter of children, the songs of elders, in rhythms that have pulsed through this continent since before history began, and will continue long after we're gone. This is Africa. Cradle, heartbeat, home.